Thank you very much for attending today's webinar. We're going to be talking around business models, about creating business models for um, understanding, I guess, how you get competitive advantage and where we're heading to um, in your business. For those of you who arrived late, I've muted all the microphones just to sort out any background noise that may creep into the presentation, and that improves the quality for everybody. We've got time for questions later, but if you've got questions as we run, type them in and I'll try and answer them. So type them into the questions area, and later on I'll either unmute the microphones and we'll answer those, and you can ask your questions in person, or we'll do some things. So thanks very much for this. Just a reminder, this webinar is part of the Horticulture, the Next Generation program, which is a program that's funded by HAL, and it's a cross-industry program, and it's about improving business leadership in the horticultural sector, and this is part of that program. But our audience is not necessarily restricted to horticultural businesses, and we've got business representatives for a number of businesses across the spectrum of businesses. The workbooks, as I said, it's available. It's not necessarily essential, but it will certainly help, and that's good. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Russell Cummings. I've been a business consultant and coach for the last 28 years. I work primarily with private and family-owned businesses, and I do that with helping them with strategy, planning, coaching support, and the development of business leaders within businesses, and this program, I guess, is part of that. So today we're going to talk about business models, and I guess the thing is, why business models? And for me, as a coach, I guess I spend a lot of time with my clients, I guess, tinkering with and re-engineering our business models. And the tool we're going to explore today is quite a simple tool that I use to help us map that, and I guess for starting the process of understanding your business model. Now, what is a business model? So my definition is it's a plan for how your business will deliver value to your customers. And there's a space for you to sort of take some notes in this on page 1 of the workbook. So you might want to fill that definition in. While you're doing that, a business model is something I reckon it can be used as a mechanism for differentiating your business in the marketplace. So it's a way for us to have a look at our business and say, where can we improve it and what can we do differently? You can also use the business model to map your department, or if you're part of a not-for-profit or even a government organization, you can use this business modeling to do the concept to get your head around how you might change things and do things. The context is just different, I guess, when you're looking at it from those perspectives. Let's talk a little bit about some examples of business models, and it's probably easier to give you some examples, and you might take some notes on page 2 of the workbook here if you want to. There's a couple. So Google. So Google's a fairly obvious one if you think about it. It's one of the world's largest companies, and essentially it gives everything away. So Google's model was what they call free products. So it's given products away for free. It gets its revenue from either advertising or premium services where you pay a bit extra to get some additional services. But Google's basic model is around free. So it's very interesting. So they've changed the elements of your traditional business model to do with the revenue and the channel that they use for delivery, because their business is 100% web-based. Another example is Southwest Airlines. Now, Southwest Airlines is a very successful business. It's the only airline, I believe, in the world to have been profitable for every quarter in the last 30 years, and airlines in the world have been through some very difficult times. Their business model is about low cost. They saw themselves competing against the bus lines, and so what they did was think about the elements that were going to really drive their costs down. And as a result, the entire crew from the captain on down is involved in our aircraft turnaround, in cleaning the aircraft and preparing it and prepping it for the next flight. There's no baggage transfers. They only use secondary airports because the costs are less, infrastructure costs are less, all that sort of stuff. And they do things like you prepay for your meals before you come on the flight, and they give them to you in a little box as you step onto the plane. So they've tried to reduce labour and minimise all those costs along the way. So they've changed the traditional business model around their target market. So their target has been around people who would traditionally catch a bus, about the activities they do, and then the resourcing, the level of resourcing that they apply to actually deliver that. Bit of a different business model is a company called 99 Designs. I don't know if any of you have been to 99designs.com. It's a really different way of doing things. So rather than take a traditional contractor model as used by the competition, like freelancer.com and Elance, where contractors will bid to win your job, and then you pick a contractor to do the job. 99 Designs, you actually agree to pay a fee, and then they create a competition for your project. And so, if it's, let's say, it's designing a logo for your business, 30 or 40 people will compete for. They'll actually do the job of designing your logo and doing the work for you, and you pick the winner of the competition. It's really quite interesting. The last logo I helped a client design, we had over 42 designs come up that we selected the winner from. It was a great process. And they've really changed the business model regarding partnerships and their value proposition. The last one I'll throw up today is really a quick one. BMW are bringing out some electric cars at the moment. I was reading an article on them the other day. And what they're coming up is with a hybrid electric car that's got good urban range and functionality. But the biggest problem they're finding with electric cars is they're great for urban stuff. So you can drive them to and from work, recharge them, do all that sort of stuff, and get around the urban environment fairly quickly. As soon as you want them to move out and do some regional travel, they come a cropper because they just don't have the range. So what BMW are trialing in Europe is you buy your electric car, but it comes bundled with a number of days of free use of a 1 Series car for your longer trips. So what they're trying to do is change the model, the value proposition, and the resourcing model away from that traditional car sales model. All right. Now, a gentleman called Osterwalder has developed a simple business model canvas. And this is the tool that I found really useful for helping us design our business model and understand our business models. He's got quite a good book, which is called Business Model Generation. And it's written by Alexander Osterwalder. And it's quite good, and it's got a series of good business models in it to look at and understand these canvases. But I've got to be honest, it didn't drop for me until I really started to use the business model canvas and draw some models of my own. So my advice is maybe have a look at the book, but more importantly, let's have a look at the canvas and how we use it. Now, I'm going to explain the canvas in a bit of detail in a minute, but let's talk about the key steps involved in actually developing a simple summary of your business model. The first step is to map the 9 key elements for your business. And we'll go through those elements in just a second, but there's 9 key elements that cover a whole range of things, and you map those out and write notes on them and define what each of those elements are for your business. Once you've done that for where your business is now, you can then come back and look for the gaps in the model or the areas where you can improve your performance and lift your performance. And then thirdly, you can start to say, well, are there any areas that we can really change our focus focus on that will improve our competitive advantage in our target markets? So what are some of the areas we can change that are going to give us a real advantage over the competition? Because if you map your competitors' business models, you might find theirs is very similar to yours, and you might be able to find there's an area that you can work on that will give you a better competitive advantage. So let's talk about a business model. So Osterwalder's put together a business model canvas, and it's on page 3 of the workbook. And here's the simple canvas here. This is the blank one in your workbook, and I'm going to get you to fill it in as we go. Now, it's divided into 9 key areas. We'll come back to in a minute. We're going to go through each area in just a second. But the quick overview really is that you use it like this. So if you start off with customer segments, right? So we start off with our customers, define who our customers are. We can then talk about the relationships that we have with them, the value proposition, which is the products and services we offer, and then the sales channels. How do we either communicate with or deliver that value proposition to those customer segments. If we look at all those elements, they are really around creating a revenue model. And so we can look at the revenue streams that are derived from our customer segments and delivering our value proposition to them. The second part of the business model looks at, which is the red arrow, looks at that area where we start at the value proposition, and it says what are the key activities we need to generate that value proposition, what are the key partners we need to have in terms of partners and suppliers that we need to have, what are the resources we need to work on and we need to have in order to deliver our value proposition, and from that we can derive our cost structure. And of course, once you've got some idea of revenue and costs, you can get an understanding of profitability of your business model. So it's a simple process. So I guess when I look at it, if you've got a blank one, so we'll talk through each of the elements in detail. Now, as I go through them, I'd like you to make a couple of points on your business or your organization in each area, just so that you start to define them. So the dot points you make are things that define either the customer segments or the value proposition and those sorts of things. Now, developing a business model is a couple of ways you can do it. You can use this template that we've got here, and which will be downloadable from the website. You can simply write notes on it and that sort of stuff. I often print it at, say, an A3 size and use small post-it notes because they allow you to move things around, and you can buy a coloured pack and you can have different ones. Or there's quite a good app, and that's in the resource section as well, called the Business Model Toolbox. It's probably the most expensive iPhone app or iPad app I've bought. It's about $30 or $40 to buy, but it's very good. It uses virtual post-it notes, and it actually has got quite a neat little profit model calculator in the back that allows you to build a little simple P&L calculation based on your business model. So it does the financial stuff fairly well. Now, what does a completed one look like? Here's an example of one that, oh no, it's not. I've managed to pull up the wrong PowerPoint, so my apologies there. If you look at page 4 of the workbook, you'll see there's a completed business model there. That's been done with the business model app, and shows us the different areas. The different colours denote different things. In this example, the green ones were all things that we went back. So the yellow and the purple ones were all things that we went through and did originally, in the current now state. And then the next one we went through and said, righto, what are the things we need to change and add in, and what can we do differently? And that's where we added in a whole heap of those green post-it notes. All right, so let's talk about the different elements. So go back to page 3 of the model and start to make some notes in each of those. Just add a couple of points. Remember to focus on what you do now, and then you can not what you might want to do. What does your currently business do now? We'll go there. A question from Francis about the app. Francis, I don't believe the app does work on Android. There may be another app that does. I haven't found an app. I don't have Android, so I haven't actually even looked. I've got to apologise. But the one I know of is an iOS one. All right, customer segments. So really, customer segment area is just defining the different groups or segments of customers that our business serves. So for many of you, particularly you, if you're selling through agents or wholesalers or direct to supermarkets or that sort of thing, you may have at least 2 segments that you want to think about. They're a consumer and a customer. And a consumer is the person who actually consumes or uses your product, where your customer is the person who's often the middle manager or the middle person in that relationship. Now, it could be a supermarket, it could be a distributor, it could be something else. But just quickly make a couple of points and just define who are 2 or 3 of the key groups that you might need to serve in your business. Quick note from Glenn here. Glenn said there's also a web version for those of you who don't have an app. So I might get the URL for that, and we'll include that with the resources. All right, so our customer segment is the first step. Now, once we've defined our customer segment, then we can start to say, what are the relationships? So we're moving, right to left across the business model canvas here. And what we're trying to do is just define the key characteristics of the relationships we'd like to have with our different customer segments. So the key words I often find drop in here are things like, personal and trustworthy, or long-term, or short-term, or solution-focused, or whatever it might be. So think of the words that might just define the relationship for you with your clients and with your customer groups. Take 2 seconds. I just want you to write down a couple of keywords, the words that spring into your mind first up around customer relationships that might define the relationship you have with your customers. We then move on to value proposition. So the value proposition is then the bundles of products or services that add value to our customers. So this is really what our business delivers. So what's the value proposition? So it's normally a group of products or services or categories. You don't want to list every product, every SKU that you sell, but you might want to talk about the large groups of them. You may also want to include add-ons and value adds and different elements of the service or product that you add, that you deliver. So for example, if you've got a mango business, you might have premium mangoes, commodity mangoes, and maybe mango pulp might be just the three areas that you do. But if you're a manufacturer or something else, you will have specific products there that you might do, and you might have families of products or groups of products depending on your business. If you're a service business, you'll also have maybe groups of services that you can put it under. So again, just take a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds even, and just write down, what are the big elements of your value proposition. The fourth element is to talk about our sales channels. So how does your business communicate with and or reach its customers? And sometimes this is about service delivery or product delivery. How do we actually get the product to the clients in some ways? So it's about sales channels. So how do we get there? So typically the things I see drop in here are, we communicate via websites, advertising, we've got sales teams, social media, direct, all that sort of stuff, online stores, all that sort of stuff drop in here. So think about your sales channels and how your business communicates and reaches its customers. What are the key elements that define those sales channels, those channels for communication? Two or three dot points is all you need to make. All right, and then lastly, down the bottom of the very bottom of the canvas is that area of revenue stream. And what are the key areas of revenue for business? In many businesses, there might only be one or two or three revenue streams that we really need to focus on. Part of that revenue stream you also might think about how it is that you generate your revenue. So it might be, is it direct sales? Is there if you've got a service business, it might be on a fee-for-service basis. It could be at a commission rate basis. It could be on a whole range of things. You may sell your products and services in different ways to other people. So you might want to make some notes around revenue streams and what you do. Now remember, you're doing this around what you currently do. Okay, so that's the revenue side of things. And if we move back to the value proposition, which is the big chunk in the middle, remember value proposition is the bundles of products or services that we use to add value to our customers. We're now going to think about then, I guess, those the costs that are associated with this. So the first thing is, what are the key activities that are most critical to delivering the value proposition to our customers? Now, we don't want to list all the activities in your business. Remember, the key words here are critical and deliver the value proposition. So what are absolutely the critical activities that our business must do to deliver the value proposition to our customers? shouldn't include things like administration and support processes like HR and those sorts of things. Probably should be more focused on the actual delivery processes and the key activities you might need to do. It might include sales and marketing, manufacturing, logistics. In a horticultural business, grow, harvest, pack, market, distribute. Those sort of words sort of spring to mind there that you might want to think about. So think about the key activities. Again, we want critical activities we must do to deliver our value proposition. Okay. Plug a couple of those in. Once we define those key activities, the logic flows then. We've got those key activities. Who are some of the key partners? So what's the network of partners and suppliers that make the business model work? So, who are the people and who are the other businesses that we need to partner with? So these are necessarily external to our business or our department or whatever we're doing this on. So these are necessarily external to that, but what's the network of partners and suppliers that make the business model work? So who might they be? So they can be alliances, key services, distributors, marketers, those sorts of people. It could be a whole heap of people that we need to make sure that our business model works. So think about it from a business model perspective. So this is not a description of your whole business. This is just about some of the key elements that are really important. So think about it. Who are the key partners for you in your business? They can be suppliers. They can be alliances. Be all sorts of things. Oh, what have I done here? So invariably then, we need to think about the key resources that we're going to use. So in business, it's important that we understand the most important assets to make our business model work. So we're going to deliver the value proposition. They're the activities we're going to have. We're going to have these partners. What are the resources that we need to make in order to have them work? And usually they revolve around people, equipment, infrastructure, capital, IT, some of those sorts of things, systems and processes. What are the key resources that we need to have, and what are the most important ones of those that we need to have in order to deliver our business model? Again, just take a couple of seconds to write down some notes there. Obviously, we're pushing through this fairly swiftly, and you will need to think about coming back probably and filling in some of these, spending some more time on this stuff. But at the moment, just take some time to think it through. Often the stuff you first come up with is some of the best stuff anyhow. Last one's cost structure. So once we've mapped out that sort of left-hand side of the business model canvas, you can start to pull your cost structure together and, what are the major cost groups for running our business? Now, again, you want to group them up into the major cost groups because you don't have much space and we want to be able to summarize them. But, typical ones are labor, direct costs, overheads, finance costs, operational costs. They're the typical ones that drop in there. And if you use the business model app, then you can actually it's got a neat little thing in there where you can actually apply costs against customer segments and against various elements of your value proposition, that sort of stuff, and build a really nice picture of it. Now, obviously, of course, once you've got your revenue and your costs and you put some numbers on them, so the next step is to say, well, they're the key areas. Let's go and put some numbers against revenue, so we work out what our revenue streams really are out of this business, and then we can also, then say, righto, then what are the cost structure that matches that revenue stream in order to deliver this business model? Is it profitable? Is it profitable enough? And you can start to making some calls on some of those sorts of things. So it's quite a useful tool to do to map out your business model and work through those elements of, who's our target market? What is the value proposition that we deliver? And therefore, what are the revenue streams that drive out of delivering that value proposition to your customer segment via those sales channels. What are the revenue streams that drop out of that? On the flip side, you then say, in order to deliver that value proposition using these activities, partnerships, and resources, what's the cost structure that aligns with that? And then you can do that simple profit and loss calculation to say whether it's actually a worthwhile investment or not. And what do we need to change in order to make it work? Now, once you've mapped, I guess, the existing state or the status quo, then a couple of questions arise for me. So where are the gaps? Where could we do better? And so I'd encourage you to go back over and look at your business model and say, what could we do differently here? And mark it with a different color or do some other way so you know it's new, something you've got to work on and something you might have to do. Things that spring to mind for me really around this stuff are, new customers. Are there any new customer segments we can service, or where can we go? Can we change the quality of relationships? Can we step up the quality of our relationships and build better relationships? Are there any new products or services, or can we package together products and services to give us something different? And we're talking about competitive advantage here. So we're starting to say, can we use this business model and the changes in it to give us a competitive advantage in the marketplace? We're talking about differentiating ourselves in the business here. So that might be about taking on a different target market. It might actually be dropping some segments out of your market. Delivering new products and services, packaging up things differently. Maybe it's about using different sales channels in order to get in touch with a client or to communicate with them. Revenue. Are there different ways we could charge for our services? Can we move from a do and charge rate to a fixed fee? Can we move from to a far more regular pricing system in terms of market instead of market pricing? Maybe a retail back pricing model as opposed to a market-based pricing model. Can we revise our activities? What are the core activities and what can we do differently? Partners. Are there partners or alliances or suppliers that can give us a competitive advantage? Can we change suppliers? Can we do something that's going to give us a step on the competition? Resources. Can we use more or less resources in order to do things, or a different quality of resources? And then lastly, how does that then reflect on our cost structure? Can we outsource? Can we insource? Can we use labor, equipment, hire? Can we do all these things to give us a different cost structure that might give us a competitive advantage? We can drive our costs down. Maybe we can reduce the price and give us a competitive advantage, or even better, maybe we can just drive our costs down and have a bigger profit margin, which actually means we need to do less work and we can invest more time and energy and money back into growing our business rather than chasing small margins. So take a minute or two and just think about it. So what are the key elements that you might change in your business model? Is there anything glaring? Just take a minute or two, look back over the business model you've got in front of you there, and just look at it very quickly and say, where are the gaps? What can we do better here? If you've only got one sales channel, what other sales channels are there? How are we going to get to market with people? If we're currently delivering product via a particular channel, can we have our own online store and deliver? Can we use different models? So can we use for example, an online model like we're doing here today as a webinar model as a different way of delivering services to people? And so these are all questions I want you to ask yourself. Just take a minute or two. Okay, so in summary, business model, it's a very simple but powerful tool for understanding your business. If you take the time to map out the current state of your business, you can then use it to brainstorm what you can do differently. I found it's a great tool to use as it gives us, I guess, a clear model for how we're working, what we can do, and allows us to make some changes, particularly if you start to add some of the dollars into the bottom of it and start to tweak with some of that. You can start to see the impact that changes in your business model can have on your profitability, and it's quite a useful tool. make sure that your strategies are clearly reflected. So if you've got a strategic plan and you've got some strategies for how you're going to grow and develop your business, make sure that they're actually reflected in your business model, because quite often I clients whose business model initially doesn't reflect the strategy they have in place, and we need to think about how we're going to change our business model to do things differently. Now, there's a wealth of information on business models on the internet. We've given you a few resources. There's a couple of simple videos from Osterwalder, but there's a lot more resources out there. So please get out there and have a look at it. I found it's a very powerful tool. We're also happy to give you a hand if you want a hand to map out your business model and spend a bit of time understanding strategy and where you go. So that's business models. Just before we go to questions, I'll just tell you about our next two webinars. So on Monday, the 2nd of December at 8:30 Sydney time, we've got Greg Gunther. Greg's a well-respected business consultant. He's going to talk about from strategy to execution. So it's about mapping out a strategic future for your business. He's going to talk about frameworks to convert strategy into great results, how to bring more accountability in your team, and how to actually execute your strategic plan. A great session. I recommend it. Again, it's free, and you're welcome to pass all this information on to friends and relatives and colleagues who may want to be involved. The other webinar next week, we've got two on next week, is on Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock Sydney time, is Mike Boyle from Banjo Group, and Mike is going to be delivering some insights into the salesperson look like going forward to 2020, and that's based on some research they've done and pulled together into a white paper called Sales Shift 2020, and it's about understanding whether you're ready or not, and ready to go. All right, that's enough from me. Any questions? Happy to. If you've got a question and you've got a microphone, I'm happy to open up the microphone for you, and you can talk. If not, just type your question into the question area, and I'm happy to answer your questions around business models. Question from Kate says, how often would you suggest we address our business model? Kate, I guess it's one of those things that you need to look at, and when you've got a clear understanding of your business model, I'd be looking at it on a regular basis just to see if anything's changed in the environment. So when there's a major change in the environment, then you can then you probably should be looking at your business model again, just to work out what it is that you need to do, what's changed, and how you might adjust to that change. So it'll be a situational basis, but I don't think it would hurt to pull it all out. So yeah, in a horticultural business, Kate, I would think the end of season is a bit of a review, and then prior to the next sales season, and have another look at it again just to see if anything's changed. Yeah, comment there from Stan about the Osterwalder's book. It is a great book. It's got lots of different business models in it to show you some great examples. There's a heap of that stuff also on the internet. There's also a lot of stuff in SlideShare. So if you subscribe to SlideShare, there's lots of stuff in there that you can go and have a look at. Les has asked the question: is it useful to examine our competitors using a business model? I actually think it's not a bad idea, Les. You're going to make some assumptions about different things, but like most times with competitor analysis, we've got to make some assumptions anyhow. If you've got a bit of inside knowledge, that always helps. But I think it's useful to have a look at their business model and how you think it works, particularly if it's a highly competitive environment, to see what you might be able to do differently. Kate's asked a question about what is SlideShare. SlideShare is a site where people post PowerPoint presentations. So if I wanted to, I could post this PowerPoint presentation on SlideShare, and people can download them and use them and view them. So there's lots of good information on SlideShare. So it's like a library of PowerPoint presentations on a range of different topics. We might leave it there. So thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you at our webinars next week and in the coming weeks. Be sure to pass on to your friends, colleagues, and family, and let them know that we're operating these events. They're all free, and we look forward to having you along again in the future. I wish you a great weekend, and weekend's coming up. Great week coming up. Don't forget to log in next week, and we'll talk to you then. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks, guys.